If you have been listening to this program over the past few weeks, you know that we've been taking on a pretty big, pretty serious task this summer. We are looking for nothing less than the best symbol of British Columbia. The one thing that does the best job of standing as a symbol for this gorgeous province of ours. Now, we have been asking you to vote on various matchups. Today, we're asking you for a vote in the animal quadrant. These are the four animals remaining. Spirit bear versus sockeye salmon. Steller's jay versus the orca. So Spirit bear versus sockeye salmon, Steller's jay versus orca. To talk about these matchups just a little more, we have reached Jess Findlay, a Vancouver-based professional nature photographer, also a guide and a biology tech. Good morning to you, Jess.
Hi, good morning. How you doing?
I'm very well, thanks. Thanks for taking the time with us. How did you get into nature photography in the first place?
Well, I think it's pretty hard to avoid nature living where we do, especially in the Vancouver area where you've got this amazing combination of the ocean and the mountains right there. So I gravitated towards that early on, thanks to a family that had a real connection with the natural world, bird watching and hiking and all sorts of things like that. So yeah, been doing it for quite a while now, since a fairly young age.
And so as somebody who's taken probably a lot of pictures of all sorts of things that could, stand as a symbol for British Columbia, what do you think of the idea of us trying to find the best symbol for BC, with everything from Nanaimo bars to orcas?
Oh, I love it. I think it's any excuse to get people motivated to think about the natural world, and even if it brings up some contentious matchups between, several very much loved symbols already.
Yeah.
From things that are very familiar to us that are more backyard creatures to things that we may have to travel a little further afield to see. I think it's a great exercise.
I guess you're a guide. You take people out all the time. What kinds of conversations are you having with people about the animals that you encounter?
I think it can go from anywhere from the more nuts and bolts of things of how to photograph a certain thing, trying to be one step ahead of its behavior and how to get yourself in the best position to get the best photograph, to thinking about things a little more abstractly and thinking about this animal's place within the greater ecosystem, and stepping away from the photography element to just appreciate them for what they are. And we're so fortunate here in BC, and I think it showcases that in the variety that we have in this bracket. Everything from salmon to their direct predators, bears, to small, again, sort of backyard birds, all the way to orcas. And we just have such an amazing variety here that it brings up endless conversations, just given the amazing biodiversity we have here.
All right. Well, let's talk about the what's left. You've got the spirit bear versus the sockeye salmon. What do you think about those two choices?
It's an interesting matchup. Hey, it's sort of predator versus prey, although the spirit bears themselves will mostly be eating, pink salmon, I think, where they're spending most of their time in BC. But yeah, gosh, you couldn't have two more different creatures, both from a life history standpoint and just like physically, they're so different. But I can absolutely see the case for both. It's sockeye salmon being this tremendous symbol of the prosperity of our river systems here in BC, particularly the Fraser. It occurred to me in kind of thinking a little bit more about these choices, in that you have, something like a salmon, which if you're not out there as an avid fisher person, you're not necessarily seeing these things or engaging with them, maybe apart from seeing them on your plate every now and then. But if you think about commuting, some of you are probably out there maybe crossing the Arthur Lang Bridge, the Port Mann Bridge, the Alex Fraser, and right now underneath you, perhaps in those turbid waters of the Fraser, are thousands, if not hundreds of thousands of sockeye salmon passing underneath right now. So I think we're a lot more connected to them than we may give credit to.
All right. Now, have you ever photographed a spirit bear, by the way?
I have not. I've had the good fortune to be in their general area up in the Great Bear Rainforest, but it was not quite at the right time of year. I was working on some other things, but gosh, is it ever on the list? They're
I bet.
Pretty incredible. I'd love to see one someday.
All right. So spirit bear versus sockeye salmon, and then orca versus Steller's jay. What do you make of that matchup?
Yeah, it's an interesting one. That's another one where you have a creature that can be found right on your back deck, on your, if you're it's anything like my place, on your railing, literally chattering at you in the morning to come out and feed them, to something that people travel the world over to go and see specifically, and have to go to great lengths to go out and see in the case of the killer whale. Although increasingly so, they're starting to come in more in towards Burrard Inlet and Indian Arm and places like that. So that's been really interesting to see in the last couple of years. And I think it's giving people the chance to connect with that animal a little bit more than they may otherwise, been able to.
Mm-hmm.
If you're standing on the seawall next to Siwash Rock and watching transient orcas go by you, that's a pretty amazing opportunity as opposed to having to potentially go out and onto a specific whale watch.
Yeah.
But another very, very worthy matchup, I would say, and it's a difficult one for me. I have a soft spot for the Stellers, Jay, and always have. So it's a good one.
I was out walking early, and in fact, it was yesterday morning, and there was a Steller's jay poking its head out of a bird box that somebody had made, and it was just looked like a cuckoo clock. It was hilarious, but they out of a little birdhouse, somebody had stuck way high up in a tree.
Oh, I love it. Yeah, they're such a great bird. They habituate so readily to people that I think they're a great sort of conduit to the greater sort of birding scene when you have such a charismatic bird that's so obviously beautiful, that's so accessible to people. I think they're a good, it's a good way to spark your interest in that part of the animal world in this area. That's for sure.
And unlike orcas, you always hear them before you see them.
Absolutely.
All right.
Yeah, increasingly so this time of year.
I know. Jess, it's great to hear you. Thank you so much for the time. We appreciate it. And we'll be watching the matchups.
As will I. Always a pleasure. Thanks for having me.
Take care. That's Jess Findlay, who's a guide, a biology tech, and an award-winning nature photographer. And you can find his work on Instagram at Jess Findlay. That's Findlay with a D. Findlay. Now it's up to you. Head to cbc.ca/bestsymbolbc to cast your vote in today's matchup. Animal quadrant, just 4 animals left. Will it be the orca or the Steller's jay? Will it be the spirit bear or the sockeye salmon? You decide.